you asked about the attempts to rig the 2026 election, which is 100% going on. And you asked if South Park was going to be important. And I'm going to put all those things together here by saying that yes, the administration is trying desperately to rig the elections so that they don't have to face voters anymore, especially since it seems pretty clear that Trump is not in good shape. And these Epstein files are going to continue to come out, and they're going to continue to make the Republicans who have enabled Trump look worse and worse. The very fact that they're trying to pretend that these are not a big deal when they went after Hunter Biden, who was not in office, and had nothing to do with the office except being the son of the person in it. And now they're looking at, I mean, imagine if this were Hillary Clinton, or Kamala Harris, they would simply, or Joe Biden, they would simply not be brushing this off the way they are. Um, as Trump increasingly weakens, you're going to see more and more frenzy to try and lock up the country. Again, because they believe that those of us who believe in democracy don't really have a right to a say in it. They think that we are polluting the country and that we shouldn't have rights to vote. We shouldn't have the right to have equal treatment before the law and so forth. Um, so the way you combat that, people seem terribly discouraged right now. And I look at this situation and I'm like, we have the majority and we feel very strongly about it. And we have on our side the great thinkers of the United States, not the great thinkers of the Nazis, the way they're following, or the great thinkers in Hungary. We have James Madison, and we have Abraham Lincoln, and we have Fannie Lou Hamer, and we have all the people, RFK, the first RFK, JFK, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Jimmy Carter, the people who stood on the principles of the United States of America, the idea of the American dream, that you could work hard and prosper so long as you were treated fairly and equally before the law. You had a right to a say in your government, and you had a right to equal access to resources, including education and healthcare. And those principles are very much more a part of our DNA, of the majority of us, than the idea that a few rich guys ought to rule. So the thing that I want to impress upon you tonight is it's not a question of waiting until November 2026 to cast a vote. By then, the die will be cast, and we will know what the future looks like. The time to speak up is now. The time to push back against the re-gerrymandering of Missouri, for example, which is halfway through the legislature there, and of Texas and of the other states that Trump is pressuring, is now. The time to put pressure on your state legislators and your congresspeople is now. The time to make sure your neighbors understand what's going on through your use of social media, with videos, with posting memes, with talking to people directly, with showing up to protest and overpasses and around the country on these upcoming protests, and showing up on bridges and the many places people are protesting, is now. Now is the time, as Trump is weak and as the Republicans recognize that he is weakening, to make sure that they understand how profoundly unpopular this is. It's not to say everybody has to be a Democrat or an independent. Republicans are more than welcome in this because they are a group of small radicals who are trying to destroy our country. It is the act of patriotism to stand up against them. What this is going to look like on the other side, I don't know. It's a new generation coming, but we won't have that generation to rewrite American democracy unless we save it in this moment. So rather than worrying about 2026, where people like Mark Elias, the election lawyer, is taking that on, and many of the cases are currently in court and people are fighting them, rather than borrowing trouble from more than a year from now, the thing to do is throw your weight in now at the local level, the state level, the national level, talking to people, making sure that individuals recognize what truly is going on. Because a lot of people still think this is just normal politics, and it 1,000% is not. Where does South Park fit into that? The more attacks on this administration show up in social media, television, Instagram, TikTok, all the places you're seeing things, the more that will change the views of the people who are not currently engaged. You're probably never going to change your MAGA grandfather, but you are going to change the minds of a lot of people who don't like where things are going. And they haven't seen full inflation yet, which is starting to hit. They haven't seen what's going to happen to prices as, or is happening to prices as the tariffs bite. I don't know if you've been to the supermarket lately, but man, it's an eye popper. Um, as those things heat up and we go into the fall, people are going to be more and more willing to hear that the Trump administration does not have the best interests of all of us in mind. And that I think is really painfully obvious to people in Arkansas, for example, who voted overwhelmingly for Trump and yet are now discovering that the loss of China as an outlet for 25% of their soybeans is driving as many as a third of them into bankruptcy. Who do you think is going to get that land? Do you think it's going to be another small farmer? Of course not. It's going to be agribusiness or foreign investors. So the more emphasis and the more noise people can make now, the better our chances of safeguarding the election in 2026. But for all the anxiety that people are feeling, turn that anxiety into some kind of action, because sitting around worrying about what's going to come is not going to help you or anybody else. If you're feeling that way, find a friend, find someone to talk to, find something to do. You know, put out posters, work with, whatever your skill is, bring it to your community and bring it, if you can, to politics. Because to end where I started, for all that Trump and his loyalists are trying to destroy democracy, that is not popular. Every other time you can see the rise of an authoritarian, the authoritarian rises because the economy has been bad. And in the short term, that authoritarian has been able to help the economy. Trump is doing the opposite. He's crashing the economy. That should hurt him and not help him. Think Herbert Hoover rather than Mussolini. And for all that they are trying to do that, Trump is deeply unpopular, and he is also deeply weak. Do not believe the image that he is trying to sell. And remember that Trump only punches down, he doesn't punch up. So the more that we can stand together and stand up to him, the more likely he and his minions are to back down. So I hope you take some hope from that. I'm a little discouraged sometimes when I write letters because people sort of throw up their hands and say, oh, it's all over. And I write them and I make them as thorough as I try to make them about what's happening, because I feel like if you understand what's happening, it's easier to fight back against it. And people say to me, I'm so depressed after reading you. And I don't feel that way. I feel like if you understand what's happening, then you can see the pressure points to change what's happening. Whereas if you don't know what's happening, I mean, I guess maybe in some ways you can live in ignorance, but that does not end in a good place. So I'm sorry if some of the stuff I write is depressing. I do always try to talk about the good stuff that's happening as well. But we don't want to be here, any of us. Um, we'd all rather live in a world where our democracy is secure and we're fighting about whether we want to fund something to 1% or 1.2%. But that's not the world we got. And if this is the world we've got, we got to figure out ways to make it better and to preserve our democracy for the people who come after us. And in that, I don't think yet that our efforts are wasted, no matter what we're doing. So try and get out there and make the future, because there is joy in that, and we're doing it together. And that itself is a gift.